Yeah. MD. JPB. It's only right, baby.
Yeah. Why you mad? I got a bad bro. Name hot in these streets, no Tabasco. But I'm so stuck, that's a fact, yo. And if you think I'm frontin', you can run it back, yo. Go on, run it back. You know that I run it. Everything you wanna do, I already done it. And I got your little boo telling me she love me. I got this. Damn, it's gonna be a long night.
Hello guys, what is up? It is me, Prince of What Ifs, and I'm back here with another video. Today I'm doing What If Asta was Zoro's Reincarnation Part 2, since I've been waiting for it for so long. But you know, here it is, and I hope you guys enjoyed the last part of What If Luffy was Bond's Reincarnation. Working at the 7th part right now. That's the one part that I haven't finished through, so I have to actually get to it. Trying to figure out how to do the time skip. It's gonna matter a lot. Wish me luck! Alright, let's get right into this part, and trust me, it's gonna be fun. So last time we started off with Asta leaving Hodge village in pursuit of strength, and he became a bounty hunter, and after returning home he saved Yuno from refugee, and they would meet at the Magic Knight's entrance exams. After that, Yami personally invites Asta to the Black Bulls, and there he would fight Luck and show off some of his skills. And after meeting and saving Noelle, then comes the Sashi village incident where Asta would get Noelle to use the full power of her magic, but this time she doesn't use the Sea Dragon's lair, she uses the Sea Dragon's roar. Now, after completing the mission, they then go out and get their, after getting their paychecks, and Asta would help an old lady who was in fact, Julius. So after all of that, Asta would still be training, as outside the hideout, his teammates would see him squatting a giant boulder, on his back. He's been doing that since this morning. We're sure he's okay? Asked Charmy. Mauda then says, I know, right? Asta's the pinnacle of manliness. I mean, look at that. Noelle then tells him to shut up, as that is not the point, and this is when Yami arrives and he walks over to see Asta doing his workout. At this time, Asta would then drop the boulder as he notices Yami and says, oh, hey, didn't see you there. Are you sure you're 15 years old, boy? Asta then says yes. Yami just gets over it, telling him to come inside, and he then tells all the Black Bulls they have received 30 stars, but considering they were in the negatives, this is only the start. As the group is surprised by this, Asta would then ask, so what exactly have you guys been doing? They then start to think but can't come up with anything, and this makes Asta a little peeved, as he then said he's going back to training and to call him if anything comes up. We thought you were done, the Black Bulls would say, as Asta then turns around in confusion. I don't have magic like the rest of you. I always have to go this far. This isn't even half my workout. He then leaves the others stunned, even Yami, as he wonders if he could beat Asta in a fight. So, in the next few days, Asta, Noelle, and Luck are going to the dungeon, which is recently found, and when they enter, they are walking through a tunnel. As they're walking, both Asta and Noelle are wondering what Magna meant when he said not to let Luck out of their sight, and so they stay on guard. When they actually enter the dungeon, it is actually beautiful and full of magic. Not that Asta can sense it, but it does remind him of, him and his crew finding some treasures. However, this is when Luck starts to mess around and activating, traps on purpose, and Asta keeps dealing with them while protecting Noelle and himself. As he steps on another trap, it shoots out icicles, and Asta slashes once, making all of them be cut to nothing. Ooh, how are you doing that? Is it anything like your onigiri thing? Asta then gets mad, yelling, would you stop doing that? Also, I just realized, that was my Tatsumaki. Onigiri needs my 3-sword style. Luck and Noelle get, interested, as they want to see what it looks like, but it also seems impossible to use 3-sword style, and it makes Asta sound crazy. Luck at this moment would then sense a fight going on and leaves with his lightning boots activated, and actually Asta is not surprised since Luffy did that stuff way too much. At this point, he's just kind of, he just doesn't care anymore. We have to keep moving, come on, Asta would say to Noelle, as Noelle then nods and she walks with Asta, but on her 3rd step, she touches a trap, causing her to be caught by a magic plant, as Asta turns around annoyed. I am never going to a dungeon again. As he says this, the Golden Dawn team would arrive at their location through a tunnel much like them, as Yuno and his team would then see Asta cut Noelle free, and then he proceeds to thrust so hard that it leaves a hole in the plant, and kills it, as he then sheathes his sword. Asta! Asta then turns around hearing this and sees Yuno flying down with his wind magic while the other two are behind him, and as he lands, Yuno would stay silent, and there's this weird tension between the brothers. What's wrong with you two? Are you enemies, perhaps? Noelle would ask, as Noelle then gets up and they both simultaneously say that they're brothers, surprising them all, as Klaus then shoves up his glasses laughing. So you're the commoner who makes such a stupid remark. saying you would beat the Magic Knight captains? Who do you think you are? Asta simply ignores him, however, as he walks over to Yuno and asks what they're doing here, and Yuno says they were called by the Wizard King to investigate this dungeon. Oh, same with us. Klaus then says that cannot be true, but once again, Asta does not listen to him, and it makes him mad, but Mimosa calms him down and de-escalates the situation. And Noel then recognizes her as Mimosa slightly waves in her direction. Thanks, but I don't really care what he says, he's just a mage. He then starts leaving, saying that he at least likes Mimosa because, she's respectful, and Noel would fall behind him, asking him to wait. But as he leaves, Klaus would then yell, I'm just a mage, huh? Well, let's see who raised this dungeon first, the magicless swordsman or the Golden Dawn mage. I don't care. Asta just keeps walking, and Yuno then tells him to stop. Nothing you say will make him mad, but if you go too far, he might end you. Klaus would then yell, be quiet, commoner. Whatever tricks he's using, they'll run out eventually. I won't lose to him simply because you did. We're on different levels, you and me. Your grimoire changes nothing. We then cut to Luck fighting Lotus as he's being surrounded by smoke, and when he tries to hit him, he falls to the ground. He's not even that strong, how is he beating me? He would think, as he's being enveloped by the smoke right now, and Lotus would say, you really haven't noticed? Huh. Well, it doesn't really matter since you've halted our schedule, and by that you mean you've almost killed all of our men. I don't really have much time to waste. The smoke then makes Luck even so weaker, so weak that he starts to lose consciousness as it starts to cover his face and his entire body. But just as he's about to lose consciousness, he sees a certain blur as Lotus's eyes then roll up and he almost falls over but is caught by someone. The smoke then clears to show Asta was, here, and while he was holding Lotus, he would then ask Luck if he was okay. Luck would be astonished as he would then think, the first time he beat me, I played it off like he was okay and I was gonna beat him next time, but I went crazy after. I'm sure everyone heard me in my room. Then I saw him training. Now I know why I lost. He then gets up apologizing for running away, but Asta says it's okay as he would say, I would have done what you did, well, if him and I were on the same level. So they go back and meet Noel, who was waiting for them, and Asta, she was waiting for Asta to come back. She was somewhere safe, and they start heading out to find the treasure room. But on the way, Noel and Luck notice that Asta is gone, but think that he simply went to do his own thing. So they moved forward as a team and came across the treasure room, but the Golden Dawn got there first. However, they were fighting a losing battle against Mars, and Yuno was the only one left resisting. So using her newfound confidence, Noel uses the Sea Dragon's lair to protect an injured Mimosa while she was healing herself, and Luck went to help Yuno fight, but it was still not enough. And while Luck would eventually be so weakened that he was able to be hit and bashed against the wall, Mars had enough and sent a giant mineral sword down on Yuno. I just have to dodge at the right time, he would think, as he prepares a wind ball to kind of blow away the sword at the right time. But just as he does that, the sword that comes down is cut to pieces, shocking Mars as he then hears a voice behind him. Having a big sword doesn't mean anything if you don't know how to use it. What the hell took you so long? Noel would yell as Asta would then say, oh, I got lost. Silence then falls and Luck would ask if he was joking, but he was being dead serious as he then dodges a mineral blade coming at him and then another, and he would say, you're pretty good. Asta then takes out his second and third sword and puts one in his mouth, and this makes Mars chuckle, asking Asta what he was doing. Don't think you can beat me by using more swords, weakling. What are you, a simpleton? Klaus then thinks, what the hell is that commoner doing? This isn't a joke. This mage, he's the real deal. Asta then starts walking forward, but Mars jumps back, making a bunch of mineral clones. However, with one cross slash, Asta cuts them all in half. This shocks Mars and everyone as he wonders how that's possible because this guy has no magic and he's not sensing any from him. Hey, Luck, remember when I told you I didn't use the real Onigiri? Well, here it is. Well, I have 5% of its full strength. He then squats down and this pressure comes off him, scaring Mars a bit as they can all see this kind of purple aura surrounding him, and he then takes one step, causing wind to push back Mars as he cracks the ground and grits his teeth, tightening his hold over a sword. Mars then uses his mineral armor as he actually considers Asta a threat, and he would think, but a mere sword won't cut through my defense. In an instant, Asta then blitzes past Mars, and in a blur appears behind him saying, Santoryu, Onigiri. Mars then smiles, thinking he has won, when his armor then cracks and breaks, and his chest just spews blood, and he gets sent flying into the air and craters into a wall. As the dust clears around him, everyone is shocked to see he had 3 huge distinct cuts across from his torso to his stomach. Good thing I held back, Asta would say, as everyone is baffled and Klaus would be speechless. 3-sword style? What the? What is going on? Noel then runs over to Asta, scolding him for being lost, and he apologizes since it was legit his fault, and he then notices Yuno and gives him a thumbs up. Fine, you won this time. I can't believe you actually used 3 swords. Why would I lie about that? You okay, Luck? Luck then gets up, putting a thumb up as well, and Mosa would have finished healing herself, so Noel and Asta go help her up. After this, they go to the treasure room, and after Asta cuts up the door, they actually get some, treasure. Then gets his new spell, and they actually have time to find some things and take them back, like, special items, since Mars is not waking up after that attack. So before they leave, Asta was going to take the diamond mages and help them out, but he figured they would survive because he only intended to take out Mars long enough for them to leave. So they leave, and Asta hopes to meet Mars again, and then they go to the Covert Kingdom, and each group goes to their captain and tells them what happened, and the next day they were going to give a report. Now, as Noel and Asta are going to give the report the next day, they meet the Golden Dawn squad who is ahead of them, and Noel runs to Mimosa, and they say hi to each other, start talking, whatever girls talk about. As and Asta then say hi to each other, but Klaus is more deviated from the group as he feels ashamed of making fun of Asta when he had to be saved by him. Does my title even mean anything, you would think? So they walk to the royal castle, and as they're about to enter, they are met by a man with yellow hair and a glorious robe. Nice to meet all of you. The others bowed, and would ask why they're doing that, and Klaus says that is the Wizard King, and quickly bows, thinking, so that's him, the man I want to surpass. Julius then tells him to calm down, and this is when he sees Asta not even bowing, and Noel would tug his pants, telling him to lower his head at least. I don't bow to anybody except my captain. Julius then smiles, thinking that Asta was talking about Yami, but he was not. He was talking about Luffy, and everyone gets up, and they follow Julius to a tower where they would give him the items they received, and shows Julius his new spell, which intrigues him, and he's rooting for Now, after seeing Yuno's grimoire, he then looks over to a bored Asta, asking if he can see his grimoire, and he says sure. Taking it out, he then opens it up for him, and Julius would then say, I can't read this. What are these glyphs? Julius then says he can't tell what the grimoire says, and instead asks Asta to see one of his swords. And Asta hands him the katana containing the power of the Demon Slayer, and Julius touches it, and he can feel its light and balance. It's a pretty good sword. But then all of a sudden he feels weak and drops it, making everyone ask if he's okay. Asta then picks up the sword and sheathes it, saying, it's anti-magic, that's why no one else but me can use it. This is the first time everyone is actually hearing this, and they're so much more, focused on this 3-sword style, so they didn't really care to ask. And it's surprising, as Mimosa would then ask if that's why he could beat Mars so easily. What would I need it for? I don't even want to use it, it's just that this thing won't leave me alone. By the way, Asta can tell Libe to stop using the anti-magic on his swords, but only for a little bit because, well, the magic is kind of tainted. Well, the anti-magic is not magic, it's just a sort of energy. The anti-magic is just tainted to his swords, but Libe can pull it away for a few seconds. Klaus would then say, that's just ridiculous. You're telling us that was all swordsmanship and physical strength? Then what was that aura I saw? It's my willpower and spirit manifested. See? He then bursts with the same aura again, making them all scared. Even Julius, since they're closer to him now than they were before. They're really far away, and Asta was fighting Mars, but now they're literally in front of him, so they're being directly bothered by it. The aura then dies down, and Asta asks if they can leave yet, and Julius would then say, no, today is a ceremony. Please follow me. I have to figure out what that was, he would think. So the ceremony begins, and when Asta's achievements are made known to the capital, and the squads gathered, but of course, a lot of prejudice is aimed at them, but Julius tells them to be respectful. Now, after Julius leaves, a banquet begins with Asta going crazy as he finds some booze and starts chugging it all by himself due to Zoro's tendencies. Yes, I know he's 15. It really doesn't matter, though. At the age that Zoro was at, he definitely could have gotten AIDS and somehow still lived. I swear to God. Anyway, people will be saying stuff like, oh, it's a commoner, why is he even allowed in here? And Asta would say, hey, come on, it's a party, right? You guys are major buzzkills, And the nobles start hating Asta a little bit right now. And this is when he would be approached by the vice captain of the Golden Dawn, and he is blinded by sand all of a sudden. And this pushes and breaks his table, the table he was sitting at, including his chair. Wow, you really don't know how to party, he would say while burping, and the vice captain would get even more mad. This is a banquet, commoner. Mind your manners. Asta then simply flexes out of the, sandbind, surprising the Golden Dawn member as he cracks his neck, and he would ask, are you trying to pick a fight or something? He then releases the same aura as before, scaring everyone as Starlight attacks with the water spear, telling Asta to humble himself, but using his bare hands, Asta cuts through the water spear, just dispersing it. You're even weaker than that diamond mage was. Starlight then gets mad when his sister Nebula sends mist at Asta, but once again, Asta just cuts through it with no sword style, and Asta would ask, who will want to go, huh? If you don't like commoners so much, then maybe you should stop being a magic knight, because you're not meant to be one. Is that so? Nozel would then say as he steps up, and the nobles would begin like, ooh, he gonna get it now, all that. And this is when Noel gets in front of Asta apologizing, and she begs for Nozel to forgive him. Move out of the way, you're not even worth being here. Noel is clearly scared, and Mimosa wants to step in, but she's far too scared, and this is when Asta then walks past Noel and walks towards Nozel, with the mages trying to stop him, but with one look, Asta freezes them in their tracks until Asta is in front of Nozel's face, and his eyes would shine red. He releases this same aura as before, but it's more intense, and this aura spreads all around the room, making Nozel fall to his knees. What is this? It's not magic, Nozel would think. I'm choosing to bow to him. This isn't control or anything. Me? A noble bowing to a commoner? Am I scared? I'm scared. He's gonna kill me. Asta just released the Conquerors Spirit, of course, and everyone can feel its effects, even if it's not being directed at them, and would then think he said it was his willpower. It's so strong that it can overpower a magic knight captain? Just his will? Asta then sees, Nozel is not going to last any longer and stops using hockey, as he then warns Nozel to watch that mouth of his, and the same goes to all the nobles and the ones that attacked them. He then walks past them as Nozel gets up, being weak at the knees, and Fuegoleon then runs in asking if they're under attack, only to see everyone is really quiet, but Nozel was shaking. I guess I was mistaken, Fuegoleon would say. For the first time, Fuegoleon, can see that, Nozel of all people was shaking and is unnerved, and is so confused with what is going on, because the other nobles are pretty shaken up as well. Someone then walks past him, and his hairs just stand up on end, with his instincts screaming out in fear, and he looks back to see a kid with gray hair had passed him. And he would head out, closing the door behind him. Those annoying nobles couldn't just let me have fun, could they? Then runs after Asta, as does Noel, and they head out, and they catch up to him, as would then ask how he did what he did. I told you it's my willpower. That's not possible though, it has to be magic. Asta then says nothing else since, they're being in disbelief, and this is when fire would erupt and screams are heard. Asta then leaps into the air, landing on a rooftop, as starts flying, and Noel runs, on foot, but it's pretty slow. Now, as Asta arrives on a certain rooftop, he would see that a mage is shooting fire at the capital, and in a swift motion, Asta jumps as the mage sees him and tries to kill him, but he would disappear from his sight as he appears behind him, neck-chopping him. Asta then lands, surrounded by fire, screams, and just disorder, and he would say, yeah, we're definitely under attack. Now, as the citizens are in panic, Asta activates his anti-magic, and black haze covers his two swords, as he then takes them out and proceeds to just, kill all the undead, finishing them off for good. And while he's fighting, he senses other mages are entering, and flies over him, saying that he would do his best to hold them back. Alright, I'll go find whoever made these things. Now, as he runs through the town saving people, he comes across a little girl about to be grabbed by a suspicious mage, and he moves fast, catching and stopping his hand. What do you think you're doing? Radius struggles to get free, but can, as Asta then punches him in the gut, sending him cratering into the ground, and he just bounces up into a wall, getting stuck in it. At this point, he's already lost consciousness. If they're gonna attack, they should at least send stronger people. Asta then asks the girl if she's okay, and she nods as Asta then picks her up and puts her on his shoulder. At that moment, five men would then drop from the sky out of nowhere, wearing robes, and Asta would tell the little girl to close her eyes. As she did, one of the mages would then say, "You really think we can beat us and save her? What do you think you are, a hero or something?" Asta then scoffs as he gently spins around with his one sword, and then he resheathes it. As he does this, the mage just starts to laugh, thinking he's being trying to be cool and everything, when all of a sudden, they see everything upside down and their heads have been cut off. Is it over yet? The little girl would ask, and Asta would say, yep, you can open them now. Whoa, pretty, the little girl would say as Asta lifts an eyebrow to this, but then sees that Noelle is running over and realizes what she meant. I would be interested in her if I wasn't over 70 years old. Well, mentally anyway, Asta would think. And Noelle then runs over and asks if everything is okay, and when she notices some of the dead people behind, and a knocked out Radies, and she would say, you really don't hold back, do you? But I was, though. Leopold then arrives on the scene, declaring that Asta is his rival now, which weirds him out. But he says he's always down for a fight, and that's what makes Leopold like him even more. And then Fuegoleon arrives, and he would say, "I guess you didn't need my help. Good work." "Who's that guy?" Asta would ask, and Noel then tells Asta not to be so rude, and Leopold laughs at his boldness, but Asta is just confused. He's just asking who the guy is. He then asks if the other captors mobilized, and Fuegoleon said yes. We then cut to Yuno as, using Bell, he releases a huge amount of wind which blasts away a certain witch, and even after doing so, he was not exhausted because he simply had more magic than the original, and though he lost to Mars, he could have just kept going for at least 2 hours until he got tired. It was just that he was outclassed in terms of experience, and Bell then turns around surprised. "You're an interesting human. Are you a wind spirit?" Bell then nods and says that from this day on, Yuno is her master, and along with this, all his powers will increase, and Yuno was surprised to hear this, and he then notices he doesn't even need to make his usual wind arc, and he was actually just flying. This is because he's not there yet, he's slowly using the ability called Monozome, and yeah, that's pretty OP, but honestly, I want to give Yuno more power in these what-ifs. I don't want to just make him, basic. Yuno then goes on to deal with many people as he can, and we then go back to Asta as they see the undead are dying down since Rades is gone, and they're happy, when all of a sudden, Asta then starts to fall through a portal, and panic ensues. But Asta just simply tosses the kid that was on him over to Noel and says, "Make sure you protect her." Asta then falls through, with the others yelling for him, and he lands, seeing in front of him a blonde guy wearing fancy robes, and they were in a cave of sorts. He would then dodge a light attack by bending his neck, and the man's eyes just widen. Pretty good. More light spears are then sent at Asta, who simply proceeds to dodge them with a calm expression, and Licht at this point is getting frustrated. He tries another tactic and sends another light spear, which Asta dodges, but then it comes back from behind at blinding speed. However, Asta simply spins as he grabs the light spear with his bare hands, and his skin is burning, but he doesn't care. Pretty good, but not good enough. Licht then pops a vein as he goes to attack again, but he moves out of the way at insane speed as a time magic ball stands where he was out of nowhere, and Asta would then say, "So this is where you've been," as he then turns to see a smiling Julius, and Licht then regains his balance and attacks him with a light beam, but Asta appears, swiping it away with his sword. "Don't forget, I'm your opponent. I'm not giving you up. You don't know the people who can actually match me in this world." Licht then, seeing Asta has become a sort of measure to keep him away, realizes that he has to retreat, and he's honestly kind of outmatched, and he just teleports away, making Asta mad as he yells, and he would say, "Why would you bring me to you for a fight and then run away?" Meanwhile, Julius then walks over to a nearby tablet, and Asta notices this, and he comes over to inspect it as well. "By the way, how did you see them?" "See what?" Julius would then say, "Never mind," as he then thinks this confirms it. "He's faster. I barely saw that attack, but he reacted perfectly." We then go back to the Clover Kingdom, where the captains who were teleported away return using Nozelle's magic, and Charlotte would say, "It seems we are no longer needed." The captains then land as Yuno, Noel, and Leopold, as well as Fuegoleon, run to them, and they explain what happened, and while they were talking, everyone was just wondering if Asta was safe. Hey, everyone then turns around to see Julius arriving out of nowhere. With him, would be Asta, and Noel then runs over to him and checks on Asta, asking if he was okay. "I'm fine. Is she safe?" He's saying this obviously referring to the little girl, and Noel would nod as he then leaves looking pissed, and Fuegoleon would then ask, "Who is he, and why does he look so bothered?" He's just disappointed about something. Now, as the captains wonder what bothers him, Julius then lets everyone know about this light magic user and how Asta protected him from him, and how there is clearly an organization kind of targeting them. And they have some prisoners now, but Rades, for example, was able to escape due to Vatos' spatula magic. And from now on, everyone is going to try harder, since Julius said these words, "I couldn't keep up with their leader, but Asta did it with ease." So after this, Julius reveals to the citizens, the organization, so they can be more on guard. And once this panic calms down, we find Asta, Charmy, and Noel walking around the capital the next day. And while the two would be, eating snacks, Asta would simply be just thinking about the light magic user. He was so slow, but if we fought longer, I feel like it would turn out awesome. Maybe he wasn't putting his all into it. Is he underestimating me? He then hears someone calling him as Noel then tells him to look up, and he would see the Golden Dawn group, and this is when Klaus would apologize for his behavior, and he promises to do better, and Asta doesn't really mind as he then looks to Mimosa, and she'll be blushing for no reason, and she took the courage to just say hi to Asta, and Asta would wave back. Noel would then be surprised, wondering if Mimosa felt the same way that she did, and all of a sudden would then create a mass of mana as he gathers it in the palm of his hand. It's not just wind anymore. It looks like a green beam. That actually seems pretty strong. Of course, he cannot sense the intense amount of magic is using, but everyone else can, and they see Bell appear, and fires at Asta. "What are you doing?" Klaus would yell, as Asta then does a quick draw before anyone can even see him take out his sword. It's already back in, and the attack disperses, blowing back everyone except Charmy, and Asta, and the two brothers just stare down at each other and laugh. Who the hell is that?" Bell would ask. "He's my brother." "Why are you acting like this is completely normal? This is the power of a spirit, and he simply stopped it? How? I didn't even see him move." "Better luck next time," Asta would say as he then starts to leave, and Charmy follows, handing him a cookie, as Charmy always does. She's the best. And Noel would then, get up as well, getting up in Yuno's face for almost killing her, and Yuno apologizes, and Yuno's team would also scold him, and he apologizes. He's like an endless pool of tricks, but at least I've gotten a bit stronger, would think. Of course, when he says tricks, he's not saying that Asta is, simply using tricks. He's just saying that Asta has a lot of techniques that he just cannot figure out. So as Asta goes back home, a few days would pass with him going on bounty hunting missions and some Magic Knight solo missions. But after a week of doing this, he'll be taking a break, and he starts relearning something that is essential to his fighting style: hockey. Outside the hideout, he would pull out his sword, and he just closes his eyes, tries to calm down and remember the same feeling as he then breathes out, and an invisible cloak starts to cover his sword, and he's starting to use it, only to that be interrupted by Finral, who's yelling for him, and Asta would yell, "What the hell do you want?" Finral then gets scared, and he apologizes, and he would ask Asta if he wants to come to a mixer. Asta, obviously busy, says no, hell no, and the two continue to argue until we cut to a few minutes later, and Asta is sitting across from Finral, Luck, and in front of him were three girls. "I am going to kill you," he would whisper to Finral. The chill would then run down the man's spine as he tries to keep his cool, and he initiates conversation with the ladies, but the conversation continues, and Asta honestly is just sleeping. And Luck is grossing out the girls with his gory battle stories. The girls only get more and more uninterested, and this is when a drunk man would approach the table harassing Rebecca, clearly being under the influence of alcohol, and he proceeds to try and grab her. But as he tries to, his arm is grabbed and twisted back as he looks to see a half-awake Asta. What the? He then tries punching Asta, but his other hand is grabbed as well, as Asta would then open his eyes, and something weird happens as the man's eyes roll up and he starts to fall forward. He would then slam into the ground face first, leaving everyone in the pub kind of surprised and shocked at what happened, and Rebecca feels grateful for Asta's help. "Don't mention it, this guy was ruining my nap anyway." Now, what will happen to Asta when he meets Lick again, which is gonna happen very soon? And what will the Eye of the Midnight Sun do after finding out how big a deal Asta's power is? And how will the Clover Kingdom, or more so Julius and the Magic Knights, act after finding out this fact? Find out in the upcoming parts. It's been me, Prince of What Ifs, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Sorry about the background noise that you may or may not have heard. Goodbye.